Hello there guys, what is going on? SonOfChelsea back here again for my team selector and preview ahead of the game away to Leicester tomorrow night in the Premier League. Chelsea come up against one of the informed teams in the Premier League, one of the most impressive teams so far for me. It's a really difficult game and it's not the best place I think to be going into it. Even though we did beat Fulham on Saturday night, given the form of this team recently, given the performances, it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a big improvement in performance for Chelsea to win this game. Team news-wise is interesting. No N'Golo Kante, which is hard to take, I think, going into this game. I think a lot of us expected after he was suspended for Fulham. Lampard seemed pretty optimistic in a press conference on Thursday going into Fulham that Kante would likely be ready, was back in training, but his hamstring isn't ready. And, you know, looking at now that midfield issue of who's going to play there, based on the performances of some of the starters in that area on Saturday. So I'll get into that in my predicted 11. Before we go into everything, looking at Leicester, looking at my predicted 11 and thoughts ahead of this game, I want to ask you guys, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also, if you're liking the video, hit that like button because it helps out the channel as well. So let's get into the stats going into this game between Chelsea and Leicester in recent meetings. Chelsea and Leicester only separated by 4 points at the end of the 1920 season, both games being score draws in the Premier League. Though Chelsea did win at the King Power the last time we visited in the FA Cup quarter-final, Ross Barkley scoring the winner that day. Though Leicester haven't lost to Chelsea in the Premier League since September 2017 when Antonio Conte was in charge in a 2-1 win with Alvaro Morata and N'Golo Kante getting the goals. The following 5 games ending in 4 draws and 1 Leicester win at Stamford Bridge. Let's take a look at Leicester. Been very impressive so far this season. They've made me look silly from my pre-season Premier League predictions. I expected them to drop off after last season, getting so close to Champions League football, but they've proved me wrong. So impressive under Brendan Rodgers, and it seems that continuity to coaching and also the first team squad has really helped them in what has been an unpredictable and congested season. That's something Chelsea have struggled with, bringing in so many players in the summer and fitting them in to the system. But there's a lot of continuity at Leicester consistently, with certain players thriving and getting better, as well in attacking areas, young players like James Maddison and Harvey Barnes, Youri Tielemans. Leicester, as you can see, are unbeaten in their last 5 Premier League games. Wins away to Spurs, a very impressive performance just before Christmas, drawing with Man United on Boxing Day and beating Southampton in a very intense game on Saturday evening. James Maddison, one of the key players and performers consistently for Leicester this season, has scored in back-to-back Premier League games for the first time since October 2019. So he's finding his goal-scoring form just in time to face Chelsea. Very dangerous player, linking up play, can drop a little bit deeper, link up with his fellow attackers, but also make runs in behind. A player Chelsea definitely need to be looking at and trying to nullify tomorrow night at the King Power Stadium. Harvey Barnes, though, another player that really impresses me, young player as well with bags of potential, has 10 goals so far this season, 6 in the Premier League, netted against Chelsea last season in that 2-2 draw. 4-2-3-1 consistent formation under Brendan Rodgers. There's a lack of time between these 2 games. They do have some big players returning from injury like Soyuncu and Ricardo Pereira, but I wonder if either of those players will start this game. A bit like with Reece James recently returning, will Brendan Rodgers risk him in a game like this? But a bit like Chelsea do have an FA Cup game at the weekend, so there could be major rotation there. So those are 2 key players. You're just wondering in terms of fitness, will they return? But Fofana has been a really impressive signing, a young defender coming into the Premier League, but it shows Leicester's ability to invest in the squad, even when losing key players like Ben Chilwell, like Riyad Mahrez, like N'Golo Kante over and over again, Harry Maguire, but they're able to reinvest smartly, bring in players that add something to the system, don't take away, and maybe in a few years sell them on again. It's a bit like Borussia Dortmund in a sense, you know, and improve the playing quality of the squad while still keeping competitive in the Premier League. Of course, we have to mention Jamie Vardy, Leicester's top goal scorer so far this season. His ability to exploit space in between centre-backs and is wonderful at anticipating the best moments from switch in possession in midfield. Passes over the top by Maddison and Tielemans, so dangerous. So in Chelsea in midfield, and that's the uncoordinated press that we've seen under Lampard recently that has really hurt Chelsea, and teams are able able to get through our midfield so easily. We saw that with Fulham on Saturday with Jorginho and Kovacic and Mount as well in that midfield, especially in deeper areas. It was too easy to bypass our midfield, and that's something Chelsea have to rectify if they want to get a decent result tomorrow night, because players like Tielemans from deep, players like James Maddison, even Harvey Barnes maybe dropping a little bit deeper. Ndidi, such a balanced player, especially defensive midfield wise, so impressive for them as well. Though I do think going into this game, I think it's going to be a lot more open. Now, games between us and Leicester last year, with the exception of the FA Cup, which was a bit more turgid in truth, very open games, very attack-minded. There could have been many more goals than there actually were. The 2-2 draw and the 1-1 draw. The 1-1 draw was quite crazy. Chelsea, I think, on both occasions were quite lucky in the sense that Leicester were quite poor in front of goal. But this season, they've been quite impressive in front of goal as well. But I just wonder in the sense of our attackers and the way we approach this game, especially with the front three that Lampard's going to have to select tomorrow night in relation to the one he picked on Saturday, you want to get pace. You want to get people who can exploit space and run into that space over and over again. I did feel, and I've seen this over and over again with Leicester, despite at times looking quite balanced in defence, they do have some areas of weakness in defence. I think sometimes it is quite easy to get behind that high line. Chelsea as well scoring a lot of goals from set pieces. That's an area Chelsea as well need to exploit, because that's an area, a bit like Chelsea last season, Leicester struggle to deal with set pieces. They do concede from set pieces quite a lot. So that's an area Lampard needs to be focusing on. And one man that can help us do that from delivery, from set pieces like corners, is Mason Mount. Mason Mount, the hero on Saturday. Let's have a look at him, because he's done incredibly well this season. 22 years old, 25 appearances, such a major player. I was looking at the stats yesterday, and Let's Talk Chelsea, please go and watch that video, in terms of creatively, in terms of progressive passes into the final third. I think it's so clear now why Mount is in this team, and Lampard was so strong in his press conference. I loved it in terms of defending Mount, saying the critics online don't really matter in relation to Mount. We know how good of a midfielder he is. We know how key he is to Chelsea's team, and he is undroppable at the moment and has been for a while. Now let's go into my predicted lineup for the game. I'm going to give you two today, two different lineups, and mostly varying in the front three, because I'm a little bit conflicted on this in terms of what I think Lampard will do. So this is my first lineup. As you can see, a 4-3-3. Edouard Mendy in goal. Reece James fully saved against Fulham. I think he needs to be back in here. I think Dave, you're starting to see mobility-wise, Dave, his struggles in terms of pace. You need a pacey fullback in this game for Chelsea that I think is going to be a very attack-minded game with lots and lots of energy, and Reece obviously can give that, so let's hope he's fully fit to start this game. I think Kurt Zouma comes into the defence once again, not only because him and Thiago Silva have created such a good partnership. It's a little bit tough on Rudy, and there is that issue of switching centre-backs after they just got a clean sheet, but I think set-piece-wise, as I was saying, Kurt Zouma, so deadly from that this season, and you want to exploit that from Leicester when Chelsea do get corners in the game, so I want Kurt Zouma back in defence. Also pace-wise, dealing with Jamie Vardy, I think is so key, and I think probably Zuma's the best for that, as well as recovery tackles. I'd rather have Zouma in the team alongside Thiago Silva. Ben Chilwell returning to his old club for the first time. Then we go into midfield, Billy Gilmour over Jorginho every day of the week at the moment. Jorginho just had a really terrible performance against Fulham. I just don't trust him in a game of this nature to really give Chelsea the solidity and impact and balance in midfield that we need. I think Gilmour has earned this chance, and I think with no N'Golo Kante, and if Frank wants to play the best version of his system, I think he needs to put Gilmour in there. I'd love to see Gilmour start such an important Premier League game for Chelsea. Kai Havertz, I think, will come back into the team here as well. I'd love to see Kai start this game. Once again, I don't think Kovac added a lot here, so I think that Kai should be fully fresh, fully motivated to make an impact tomorrow night, and once again, attacking can maybe exploit spaces in the final third. Mason Mount, obviously. Then we get into where my two lineups vary. Ziyech, in terms of having Ziyech and Hudson-Odoi, it's non-negotiable. He has to be starting this game either on the left or right. Just in the sense of Ziyech and Hudson-Odoi being different wingers, and allowing Ziyech potentially, if you have Havertz in the team, as we saw against Morecambe, making that late run into the box to assist Timo Werner. The reason I'm going for Werner, and I'll show you my second team as well, my second front three, which is Hudson-Odoi instead on the right with Tammy Abraham up top leading the line, because I think it'd be a little bit harsh on Tammy, because I think he had a positive impact on Saturday off the bench against Fulham. And Werner going to the left. I know this is going to annoy a lot of people, but I think him and Tammy have had decent connection at times. I just think in the sense of Werner, why I think Werner is going to start this game is because Lampard has been publicly backing him so strongly. And I also think it's a type of game that could spark the best out of Timo Werner, because I think he's going to get space in behind and potentially can as well. I don't think Leicester are going to sit that deep for large periods of the game. I think there are going to be moments. I look at Yuri Tielemans, I look at James Maddison, I look at Harvey Barnes, I look at Jamie Vardy. Yes, there is pace to counter-attack there, but they are progressive players who want to get on the ball. Leicester are a team under Rodgers that likes possession. And I just think if we can exploit sometimes, be a little bit more defensive ourselves, sit a little bit deeper, look for those passes from Mason Mount from deep, and even from Thiago Silva over the top of Leicester's defence, this could be the moment for Timo Werner. And I think the fact that Frank is backing him so publicly, I think it would make a massive statement, despite fan frustration of him starting tomorrow night. So that is my team, or two predicted lineups. I cheated a little bit today. Let me know your lineups in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter @SonOfChelsea, and I'll see you again.